All right. I want to talk a little bit more using this metaphor of philosophy as a train, and also mix it with the doing philosophy is like being afloat in the water. Uh, when you're starting off, you might just be floating down. Maybe you don't have a life vest. Maybe you do. Okay, the full metaphor would try to apply it. Okay, and this idea of with theists versus the anti-theists, is if you've got two boats and they're just circling each other. It's like two guys arguing in the street. It's interesting. Okay. And I point out, okay, they're powerful. This is a powerful argument and battle that's raging. And they create a current between them. And I imply that the current is even strong enough to create a whirlpool. Okay. I like a metaphor that's not all positive and negative. I see that if you want to get to the bottom of the ocean, you might want to dive right into that whirlpool. Okay. Maybe the boat you've built for the sea of philosophy is a submarine because, okay, we start off in the river, but eventually you reach the sea. One way or another, you reach the sea. And when you're in the sea, it's a different, there's still boundaries and limits. But the currents are more subtle, and it's not as assured as it is when you're in a river and your future is downstream. You have more degrees of freedom in an ocean, including down underneath the ocean. Um, so, I think there's reasons to have these kinds of battles. But the real point, bringing this all back to the material world, is out of the metaphor, is that if you're a bunch of anti-theists, you can't think we're just a bunch of anti-theists. We're a bunch of atheists. We're united. We're melding this philosophy together. We make a communal statement. We're refining our ability to state our argument. Because you were doing that in reference to that other entity, the theist. The other boat is there. Certainly, there's a lot of people that need to understand how the battle between anti-theism and theism works. And also, we all are interested in, like I said, two people just argue in the street. I don't think it's a good thing, but if they're doing it and they're civil enough, I certainly can't even think of intervening. If it's nonviolent, basically. Even if there's mock violence or verbal violence or trying to embarrass someone type stuff, but there's a limit to where we say that it really is a problem. And of course, crowds gather around, and as I say, they have something to learn from seeing this. It's just that the people on those two boats, they can't pretend that crowd gathered around them. They gathered around two guys doing something. It's the system. And this is why, you have a repeat adversary. It's very important what your relationship is. Why are they DMCAing each other? They can't respect each other. I find in my experience, if I cannot have adversarial respect, a respect for my adversary, then that adversary needs to be dismissed. You cannot interact with that adversary. And generally speaking, with this attitude, I've gotten very good at finding a way to respect all kinds of adversaries because I never lost my desire to be able to engage with all kinds of points of view and expose myself, and even in very extreme cases. But if there's some group like Nazis where you find, I'm sorry, I just can't find a real Nazi that I'm going to have a respect for as we debate, the issues of interest to Nazis. Okay. Well, it reveals something about yourself, where you draw the line. Like in that case, I don't like pro-violent social moralities. That's ridiculous to me. Okay. But I see where they come from. I wouldn't call them unnatural. But that downstream, I don't want to see that kind of system dominate. So, this consciously clicked with me, this need to respect your adversary. For example, you can respect any different kind of person. Loose arguments, tight arguments, people that are foul-mouthed and insulting, people that are fine and very civil, or mixtures other than those of any quality. You can generally find someone, that you can respect as an adversary. Okay, and they don't have to be totally respectable. A lot of these people don't pass general tests of respectability by other people. Doesn't matter. Okay, but I have to be able to feel that way because I'm justifying the fact that I am in a cycle with them. I don't think like most people, don't talk to them because you'll feed them popularity. To me, it's not like that. They could be someone that gathers a big group and really well states their philosophy well. That's just part of the risk of this of the argumentation. And if you can respect them on some level, as an adversary, something, that they're fair in their argument, or that they really are at least compassionate. Like, I've known a very extreme conservative, and I respect him because, he's the kind of guy that says you don't do charity through the government, you do it yourself, and he does it himself. So, he's, and yet, so if you have a debate with him, maybe you're feeding his popularity. That's okay if you can respect him as an adversary. Then that's just a chance you take. Some faith that the nature can work things out. That by shedding light, you and he are shedding light. But if you can't respect them, then yeah, you have to think. Because you are in a system that involves them. If people tell the story, I saw two guys arguing, they aren't going to just say, I saw one guy arguing with himself and another guy arguing with himself. They're going to say there was two people. They're not going to say, I saw the boat firing cannons. It was full of anti-theists, and not mention the theists that it was being fired at. Right? So you're in a system with them. You are in a kabuki battle, a perpetual battle replayed for education and entertainment, and for people to work through their own personal problems. And the final thing I'll just say, most particularly on this, is that the only purpose of that argument is to escape theism. And if you are an anti-theist doing that argument, you must be giving the tools to everybody to escape theism. And the problem is that many of the anti-theists have not escaped the dogmatic structure, the shape of theism. They've caught up a new idea to replace theism, but it has the same shape. But it's not God, it's mathematics or whatever, or science. They just plugged other words and concepts in this creature that altogether is the same shape. And they haven't escaped theism, so they're the ones that need the advice. So seek the tools that step you away from the whirlpool if you want to benefit from this. And the perpetual nature of it is just because there's still people coming that need to. Eventually there would be no more. And there would be no need for this except in a true kabuki and in art, where we would remember our history.